Hello, my name is Carlos. I come from a middle-income family from Venezuela. My brother Danny and I had to move away from Venezuela's harsh conditions. This primarily included the fact that there was no food left for the people of Venezuela. There's also the worsening crisis of our economy because of the less foreign countries needing our crude oil, which is practically the basis of our economy. Our parents were murdered by some street thugs over some food. This is why we headed over to Colombia, which is one of the neighboring countries of Venezuela. We headed there in search for our godfather. Once we arrived in his house in Turbaco, Colombia, we found out that he miraculously didn't live there anymore. We found out from his neighbor taking out the trash that he moved to Orlando, Florida in the country of the United States. Danny and I started brainstorming ideas of how to get to Florida. Danny came up with the risky idea of hiding on a freight boat which would take us to somewhere in Florida. We set out on our 27-kilometer journey to the port of Cartagena, which is around 16.5 miles. Once we arrived in the city of Cartagena, we used the last of our reserve money to get food because this was going to be a long boat ride from Cartagena to Florida. Then we headed to the closest port and we headed on to a freight boat where we found a hiding spot in a cargo container. The trip took about what seemed to be 4 days. The reason we didn't know was because we never left the cargo container because we were afraid we would get caught. When we heard the boat's horn going off, we knew we were close to the shore, so we got ready to abort ship and swim the rest of the way. We knew this could either be a very long swim or a very short swim. We just didn't know. It turned out to be quite the ways away, so when we jumped off the boat, we realized that we would have to save most of our energy in order to get to the shore. So that's what we did. We made it in about 10 minutes of swimming. We left via a boat ramp and found out we had ended up in Tampa, Florida when we went around asking how to get to Orlando. And the person who was helping us also happened to be Venezuelan who had migrated here after the crisis arrived in Venezuela. He bought us a map, towels, food, a backpack to store the food, and some new clothes because ours were ragged and wet. When we were walking down a road, some truck driver asked us where we were headed, so we told him, and he said that he was also headed to Florida and if we wanted a ride all the way to Florida, to which we replied, yes please. On the truck ride there, we were able to take a look at the map and find out where our godfather lived. As it turned out, he didn't live too far from the center of the city. After all of that, we'd finally arrived at our godfather's house. He welcomed us with open arms and then realized that our parents weren't with us, so we had to break the news to him. The US is great. It provides economic opportunities for all, especially like an education that I have failed to receive for the past year or so. And well, that's my story of how I got here to the US. Goodbye.